welcome. This is Gina with Bijou Noir Family. I want to thank you guys. I see that I have gotten 401 subscribers. Very excited. It's definitely, a good number. We're going there. We're getting there. I got to get a couple of, quite a few more to get where I need to get. But I definitely wanted to take the time to thank you guys and to ask you to please share the videos as much as you can so we could have some more family up in here and more subscribers and hit the notification button so you'll know when I post a new video. Okay guys, I'm gonna dig right in. I wanted to talk to you guys today about something that I was just, I was watching a YouTube video. I forget his name, but he was talking about something that got my attention. We always talk about Europe and, America and, white supremacy. But in all actuality, there's not a place on this earth that black people stand. There's not a place that we are in that we do not face racism. It's sad to say that we even face it on the continent of Africa. Where we are from, and we need to take a good look at that. There's something happening to us, and it's something that we are allowing to happen. And I'm starting to think it's our mindset. It's the way we think. Do we think we're less than? Is it something that how they say animals could smell when you're afraid? Are other humans responding to us because they could sense that we don't love ourselves, that we are not confident in ourselves? Is that what make us susceptible to all the bigotry and all the hate and so that being said, we really need to take a look at history and see what was that, and has that always been where we have gone wrong? Is there anything we can do in the present to change the dynamics? I'm starting to think that we can definitely change this with our thinking, our pattern. Our thinking pattern has a lot to do with how people see us. How do we see ourselves? Do you feel good about the person you are? When you look at yourself, do you feel good about these things that you have, the other people, your nose, the complexion, the hair, all of that? When you think about the racism that we face as a people throughout the world, it has to be a reflection on how we feel about ourselves. There's no way around it. Are you gonna join me?
Over here. Put the mic on 3.
Come on in and join me.
No, I'm over here.
All right. Well, I'm not taping yet, but it would be nice.
Are you live?
I'm not live.
Oh, okay.
I'm just videotaping. But since you're in the voice, you might as well come on. That beautiful, handsome man of mine don't like to come on video. But going back to the topic, Eric, what do you think? Do you think the problem overall is our lack of confidence, the way we see ourselves? Because, okay, we talk about white supremacy and we talk about, how white supremacy is the reason that we're facing everything we're facing, but we're not just facing racism from white people. We face racism from everyone, including ourselves. Do you agree with that? It's just something that I've been thinking about. I was like, okay, so why?
Look at it like this. I think that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I look at it like this. I think that racism is an issue that we see as a result of primarily a moral issue. Follow me here. Not letting the white people off the hook. But if you look at why we haven't been able to succeed in our own countries post-colonialism, or even after we've won independence, or even when we have a city that'll have a black mayor, or even when we had a black president, how many people were still getting killed?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why racism exists and the reason why it's able to continue to exist is because of people's greed. We are selling each other out over it. If we look at the biggest event that happened in history in terms of the transatlantic slave trade,
right?
Why was that able to even exist? Our brothers and sisters' greed on the continent and white people's greed. And that greed came together. Even if we look at a place like Haiti, which had a very successful independence, could be a very successful place. The land is very fertile. They could grow their own rice, grow their own food, feed everybody in the country with the resources that they have there. And yet they're not able to do that because they have leadership that constantly sells them out. And it's the same thing that's happening on the African continent. The African continent is the most wealthy continent in terms of natural resources.
Agreed.
Yet the people starve. Why are there starving people where we have land that is feeding the world? Africa literally feeds the world, but it's not feeding Africans. So why is that able to happen? Because of people's greed, and the leadership is selling out the quote unquote little man. And this has been our problem. If we don't conquer that greed demon, that jealousy demon, then that's going to allow not only racism to exist, it's going to give it the environment to thrive, because they'll always be able to come to the leader and have them sell you out, or they'll always be able to put someone in leadership like they do in a lot of these countries, and they'll have them sell you out. Most of these so-called leaders on the African continent, and not to get too political, but they aren't actually leading the people. They're proxies for the colonizers.
I said on my last video that I feel like they're hostage leaders.
Yeah.
Like they're only allowed to be leaders if they could be puppets.
Exactly.
So they're basically hostage leaders.
Look
they're
at
not
the guy
they're
that
not
you really like, Thomas Sankara. What did
Yeah.
they do when he stood up against? I believe it was either the Belgium or the French. I'm going to say it was the French because I remember him speaking French.
Mm-hmm.
It was the French.
It was the French.
He stood up against the French. In 4 years, he made his small country, Burkina Faso, self-sufficient. How did he do that? He eliminated the greed. They could only drive a certain type of car. They could only wear certain type of garments. They had to wear the garments that were made in Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. They had to eat the food that was made in Burkina Faso. And he eliminated that greed element as much as he could. But what did the French do? They hollered at his best friend, had him knocked off, killed, and put into an unmarked grave. And then they reinstituted the same thing where they used, I guess his name is Blaise Compaoré. They put Blaise Compaoré in power in Burkina Faso and kept the same thing going until the people got tired of it, and now he had to get had to go into exile, but he got to keep his life.
But why do we sell out? Why do we? Okay, if it's not a thing where that's what I was talking about earlier. I wasn't speaking about what I was speaking about was the fact that we don't just face racism from white people or white supremacy. We face racism all over the world, and the worst part is we face it from each other.
It's a greed element that really instituted the systematic
But how come
racism.
it affects us more than it affects any other race? There's greed in China, there's greed in India, there's greed in all those places, but those people tend to, in the end of the day, they get teamed up.
I'm gonna tell you what happened, how I look at it, and there could be somebody that can expound on it deeper.
Maybe you guys could get in the comments, when I post this video and give us what your opinions are. It's a little weird that he's talking for me from over here, but I'm gonna post this. But I'm gonna post this. He don't like being on camera, y'all. Okay.
So, if you think about it, right? What white people did in this country? Remember, we were watching that documentary about the Civil War,
right?
And they were talking about the Confederacy, which represents the South,
right?
And the only way that the Confederate soldiers could get out of being drafted into the Confederate Army, one of the requirements was that you had to have 20 slaves,
right?
And they knew that most of these guys didn't have 20 slaves. and they really weren't really benefiting directly from the culture of slavery.
Right.
I mean, it may have got them a little job, but it wasn't really. They didn't have 20 slaves. They weren't really selling cotton across the world and being international.
So the only way that they can get out of having to go to war
was to have 20 slaves.
To have 20 slaves.
Now, mind you, that would be the super elite of the South.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were not on that level, so they ended up fighting for the South. But what did they do? They created a culture of ignorance, a culture of hate.
Right.
Telling them that black people are this, black people are that. They gave them somebody to look down on. But really, if it wasn't for black people, they would be the niggas, that they would be oppressing here. It's just that black people had to be here. So they brought black people here, and so they used poor whites as like a buffer class, but created this illusion of hate, and then told them, look, I mean, you're not like us. You're not the super elite. You don't have 20 slaves. You're going to have to go fight this war, but you're not like them niggas. And so that is the illusion that they created for them, and so a lot of them have bought into
us? I understand that, because that is basically they're saying, this is your wealth. You get to be over this man. You get to be over the black man. Yeah, poor. You're a poor white man, but guess what? You're richer than he is. You're more important than he is.
But it's an illusion.
So that's what they sell to the poor white man.
But you're a dog, though.
That's what they sell to the poor white man.
Yes.
What is it in the dynamics with us, where you're in a black country, be it Haiti, be it Jamaica, be it Africa, you're in a black continent, and then you're still feeling like, I'm better than this person?
It's the greed. And then the fact that these people sell you the same illusion. Because remember, they made you the king now. So you're not like those dusty niggas in Africa. You could come over here and
you're
have
not
access.
Like them. You're better than
your
them.
Your family is going to have access to our schools. When you get sick, you can come over here and have access to our medicine.
You're not like them. You're better than them.
It's a classism game. It's mainly classism, but the racism element is there. They'll use it to play on it when they need it. That's the illusion that they created over here.
So
but
okay, let me slow down. The classism is underlying the racism, because we know that there is true racism.
There is true racism. I'm not denying that.
Right.
But
so what do you think comes first, classism or racism?
I think money comes first.
Wow.
I think money. They enslaved their own people. The word slave comes from the word Slav, which refers to an Eastern European person.
So if there wasn't a money system, do you think there'd be a lot of racism?
If there wasn't a money system, there's no way they would have even had any interest in bringing black people over here.
From Africa.
They brought black people over here for economics, and black people were sold over here for
same
economics.
Reason why they stopped slavery here. Why Abraham, why he went to, the Union went, against the Confederate, because it wasn't about freeing the slaves. It was about,
I think it was about keeping
keeping the economic power, because they saw that the South had the slaves and they were making money.
Anytime you have free labor, you're gonna kill.
And they didn't have that going on in the North.
No.
So it was about balancing it out.
Anytime you have free labor, you're gonna kill. Now, I don't look at Lincoln as such a bad guy.
Yeah, Lincoln.
I don't know.
He said he would have freed. He said if he could have won the thing without having to free the slaves, he would have. It didn't matter to him either way.
He made statements like that, but he made statements. I believe that statement he made. He was in a debate. Remember, he had to win the presidency.
Right.
The country was divided. It's a whole racist country. He was in a debate with somebody that was trying to paint him as in a corner as like a nigga lover. So he had to make statements to get elected. I'm not saying Lincoln is a saint, but they killed him for a reason. And he had respect for Frederick Douglass. There's a couple other black people.
They killed what's his name?
JFK.
And he did. I mean, he wasn't.
He's
a lot like Abraham Lincoln in a way, because he basically, I don't really care for them, but I really care.
People gotta get elected.
Yeah.
In this country, and if you go too hard for black, you had a black president that acted like we didn't even exist. At least Abraham Lincoln did something, and JFK did something. You had Obama that got gay people married, looked out for everything, and act like he wasn't black at all. It didn't do anything for black people. And black people voted him in twice.
It's a deep thing because, okay, when you think about it, it's really deep because, when I see it as a classism thing, I guess the best example for me is what's happening in India.
With the caste system?
There is a classism, but then there's a casteism. Yeah. And the casteism is about race.
The casteism
it's about shade. It's about shade of color. If you're as dark as me, you're a certain caste. If you're as light as you, you're a certain caste.
I ain't that light. I'm not getting on camera, but I ain't that light.
He's a white. I'm just joking.
We're going to put up my African DNA.
We're not going to talk about that. So it's a caste system over there. And it oversees the classism. Okay. It don't matter if you have a whole bunch of money. If you're dark skinned in India, you're nothing.
It does. That's true. They have a caste system in India, and I believe that it is the people that get mistreated the most over there are definitely the darkest.
And that's everywhere, though. It's everywhere.
That's
but everywhere.
In Africa, we're all black, and that's black people that apparently aren't doing right by other black people.
And so that's where that's where I say maybe it's the way we see ourselves. We hate ourselves. I mean, we don't like ourselves right now. I mean, the fact that everyone else hates us, is it because we hate ourselves, we don't love ourselves, that everyone else hates us? Or is it because they don't love us that we hate ourselves? I mean, you know what I mean? What comes first?
The chicken or the egg?
Chicken or the egg. Well, what came first?
If we look at the solution, you can't control how anybody else feels about you. But if we love ourselves,
we will drive it.
We can change it. Most people say, it don't matter if we love ourselves. That doesn't mean anything. Blah, blah, blah. But what if we really did value our lives to the point where we didn't kill our own brothers and sisters, and then we really stood on it? We have to see what kind of difference that would make in our community.
I mean, we've tried everything else.
We tried everything else.
We tried. I mean,
people just like, okay, well, let us just kill each other.
We tried hating each other. We tried. We tried a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing we haven't tried was unity.
True unity. True unity. Even when you look at the people that were, even during the civil rights movement, you look at the people that was close to King, and you look at the people that was, some of the people that was close to Malcolm, even some people that was standing on the front rostrum the day that he was assassinated, were sellouts. Even some of the people that was up there with King when he got shot was sellouts. Jesse Jackson took his shirt, dipped it in Martin Luther King's blood, and said that Martin Luther King told him to carry on the struggle. Who would even be thinking about something like that when your man just got taken out? Somebody as great as Martin Luther King.
Wow, Jesse.
But this is the type of stuff that ruins our community. Why is he doing that? Because he wants to be the next Dr. King. He wants to be the next guy.
This is our biggest thing, and that's why we have a lot of tribal wars too, because everybody wants to be all these kings, but no,
and this wants to be the next guy in the power play. I think that Europeans, when they came to Africa, they saw a gold mine. Literally, in some places, we had a whole gold coast. Yeah. What happened to all of that wealth, all of that gold? We didn't value it, just like we don't value ourselves today. We don't value our talents. We don't value our skills. We don't value each other. Black men don't value the black woman, and the black parents don't value their children. We don't value ourselves. And the same way the gold, I guess, like you mentioned, the gold and the things that they went to take. We didn't value our lives. We were selling each other. Exactly. And see, if we didn't put ourselves in that position.
I mean, there were some fights now. I want to get this clarified because I always get a whole bunch of people that come on here and say, hey, there were a lot of people that fought And I found out that the people in Gambia, I don't care how docile they look
Senegal,
right now.
they raised hell.
Them Senegambians, oh my goodness, they raised hell. They fought the biggest, the most resistance came from that region. I'm very proud to say that that's in my DNA. But
shout out to the Gambia.
Shout out to the Gambia. Shout out to all of Africa.
There were slave raids. There were things like that took place. But think about it. We're on a continent, all in like the general area of West Africa. We don't know each other's languages.
Right.
We're not unified. We selling you off to foreigners.
Right.
Stuff like that. So that's, you know.
You know what? The funny thing is that until we come to a place where we could really come to terms with, and I think what Eric said was all real. I hope we can bring him on here one day so you can see how beautiful he is. But the one thing that I noticed, the one thing that I have noticed with our people is our inability to realize that our true power is unity and love. If we can bring those principles together, and if we could understand that, you know, we have to weed out the sellouts, period. Once we weed out the sellouts, I think we'll be good. It's funny because somebody was talking about the Haitian Revolution. The first thing that they did
was weed out the sellouts. The sellout leadership is what hurts us the most. I mean, I guess if you have
sellout mentality, there is a mentality that some of our people have where they don't love themselves. They make you feel like, you know, because this one brother reached out to me on Facebook. He said, "You're in America. You know, stop making these videos about coming to Africa. You don't know how lucky you are. You don't want to be down here. That's Africa is for poor people. You're in a place you have so much wealth. You would be dumb to come down here." You know, and it just broke my soul that he said that, because he is trying to come here because he thinks that life is going to be so great here.
If I was there, I probably would be trying to come here too. It's all about perspective. You know, at different times, that's an individual journey thing.
Right.
I've met people that's like, I have two friends that live in the Metro Atlantic area. One lives in Jersey, one lives in Philadelphia. Two places where they left California. I always wanted to go to California.
Right.
They left the Los Angeles area and came to cities that I would be like, you know what I mean? I don't want to live there.
Right.
But that's what they needed in their lives. And then you got other people like me that would leave from Baltimore and go to places where they are. You know what I mean? Where they come from, because of the time period in their life. So whatever he's going through is probably a thing that's personal to him. But you got people that are happy where they are. Look at the sister African Tigers. She looks like she don't ever want to leave Africa. Had opportunities to leave and didn't go. That's not the story of most Africans. They get the opportunity to get out and some leave. But the perspective comes down to your perspective.
It's your perspective and your understanding. And I also think it's education. It's knowledge. Because most of them come here thinking, you know, when they see white people, Eric, they see them as saviors. They see them as angels. They see them as these intelligent beings that if they could just go live and be around them, that they can be themselves different. Yeah. So you have to keep that in mind too. It's a mental, you know.
I also think that had a lot
mental
of impact.
Control.
That had a lot of impact on, you know, we were talking about the transatlantic slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
That had a lot of impact too. Seeing that white skin for
you
them,
thinking that
for some of them, it was like,
they probably thought those people were gods. Like, they've come to judge us. They've come to, like, some of them fought, but some of them that didn't fight probably thought these people were like, you know, coming from the heavens. And especially some of them came with their Bible. You know, they bought the Bible. And was teaching them. You know, a lot of people converted to Christianity and Muslim, and, you know, the Muslim faith. This is how they got us. I truly believe they took away our roots. They took away our culture.
Well, I'll say this in fairness. I don't. With Islam, that had a lot to do with the Saharan slave trade or whatever. A lot of those people that converted to Islam definitely participated in the slave trade. I would say that African spirituality, while it's our roots, didn't seem to stop our brothers and sisters from selling slaves. The Christian people that converted to Christianity, I don't know the history enough to know if any Christian states, like people like states that or countries that turned into Christianity.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was researching that today.
If they sold slaves under the name of Christianity.
Yes, they did. They used the Bible to do it.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that.
Yes, they did. I'm happy you brought that up because I was looking at it. That was going to be what the show was going to be about, but I haven't done enough research because I wanted to know what was Christianity role in slavery.
And African Christians.
No. The Christians that were in Africa were converted by the Christians that went in that boat.
Right. No, I know that, but I'm just saying. I wonder what okay.
They played a part. Remember when I found my relative in Ghana?
Yeah, in Ghana, yeah.
Remember what I found out about my great grandfather?
Oh, that he participated in.
He was learning. He had become a Christian from the Ga tribe. They converted him to be a Christian, and they had them working. You know them dungeons?
Yeah.
Where they had the slaves?
They had them working in them.
Exactly. They were basically teaching them that this was going to be good for you.
So we have to find out what their part was. What they were studying prior to the transatlantic bringing the Christianity.
Who were our gods?
Prior to the Muslims bringing the Islam.
Yes.
But I also want to know, where did that leave room in for them to be selling slaves? If this was done under their natural religion, or if this was done only under religion that were brought to the country.
I'm gonna play that. I'm gonna play Africa's advocate right now. I was gonna say devil's advocate, but no, Africa's advocate right now to say, indentured servitude was something that was happening all over the world. And if you look before you respond, think of India, think of Europe, think of China, think of everywhere. This did not start in Africa. It was.
Everything would have started in Africa.
No. Well, you're right. You're right. Everything. I agree with you on that because I want to get. That's the fact. But indentured servitude was something that was happening across the world. It was wrong, but it was done at a level where this person would work for you for up to 7 years, and then they would become free. Or if you was at war and you captured somebody, instead of killing them, you made them work for a certain amount of time.
I'll say this, because I feel really passionately about it.
Okay.
I'll say this. There's a group of people called the Essenes that existed.
Essenes?
Yeah, they existed.
Is this a white race?
I mean, they were Jewish. I don't believe they were Hebrews. I don't believe the Hebrews to be white. I look at the Hebrews.
I mean,
as black.
you believe they were true Hebrews,
right?
Or the black
Hebrews.
Black Hebrews
that lived in the Mediterranean area, right off the coast of the Dead Sea. Now, they're one of the few groups that I know of throughout history that completely looked at slavery as evil, and I agree with their stance. I think that by us having that system, do some
research on that, because even in the Bible, it talks about servants.
But they had servants in the Bible.
Yeah.
But they, as a group, spoke out against slavery and its existence completely.
And we have to call it differently. I believe there's slavery, and I believe there's servitude.
I think
there's indentured servitude, and then I think there's what they did to us was not even just slavery; it was kidnapping.
It was awful, but I look at it like this:
it was all kinds of stuff.
You should treat other people the way you want to be treated. I wouldn't want to be in any form of that. Whether it's the quote unquote good slavery that happened under the Africans, or the horrific things that the Europeans did.
You go to war. Question: you go to war, you catch a couple of people.
I'm taking no captives.
Okay, this goes back to that conversation we had This goes back to a conversation I had with him the other day. Captives. He thinks the ruling for all things should be death. So that's just his opinion. If you spit a chewing gum on the street of Rwanda, because Rwanda's got the cleanest streets in Africa. Shout out to Paul Kagame.
Might get off with your head.
He said, if you spit a piece of gum on his Paul Kagame streets of Rwanda, you should be put to death.
I'm
That's
not
just his
saying-
opinion.
I'm not
but
saying it. I don't believe it quite that strong.
y'all, this is
But
what I'm
just
dealing
saying,
with.
I'm not taking any captives. I don't want nobody to work for me or none of that kind of stuff.
So, okay, so there's levels to this thing,
There's
Eric.
levels, but that system made way. The system of indentured servitude,
I agree,
was the baby brother to the big slavery. So we didn't have the first one.
But I think what you said first was the reason. It was greed. Those white people came there with greed.
It was greed, but if you want to kidnap people and make them work for you, that's also greed too, because that's free labor. Even if you're only getting it for 7 years and you're not raping the women and having a whole institute and raping.
I don't know if that's the fact about them kidnapping people. I know that they would go to war.
No, I'm saying I know they would
and then in war. This is how you do it. To take over certain territories, you would have to take over the people too, so they wouldn't keep fighting you, and you would have to break them down. It's a methodology to breaking people down.
But if we had unity, this stuff wouldn't have happened.
You're right. That's what we were missing.
This is what set up the stage. This unity and having this system of servitude when we're used to taking you captive and selling you off to another tribe.
It didn't just happen in Africa. The Europeans.
It's wrong everywhere.
Everywhere was at that time, just like at this time right now, everybody's on Facebook. At that time, everybody was warring for land.
Everybody was warring. The Europeans had war amongst themselves as well. But if we didn't do that, and if we shun slavery completely, and we shun all of these institutions completely, and we unify, that's the only thing that we can really ever have that will prevent this from happening again. Okay. Because if they would have showed up on the shore and Africans wanted to get down to business and they weren't killing each other and enslaving each other or having these little skirmishes, as soon as them white people showed up on the shore, they would have killed them right there.
I think they were afraid. They had never seen people without skin before. It would have been like seeing ghosts. Could you imagine?
I understand it, but if they were unified, they could have dealt with it. Right then and there, as soon as they showed up on the shore.
Hey, you guys, I want you in the comments. Tell me what you think. Because my opinion is that they were good people. I think black people, we in general are good people. Just like when Columbus showed up to...
Right, he said basically
to
with
Haiti,
50 men.
He
said it looks like they know no war. They have no swords made of iron. They touch my sword and they cut their hand. This is how ignorant they are. With 50 men, we can subjugate all of them.
They knew no war. It was a matter of, we won, now you're our slaves for 7 years. Okay, people probably wasn't even fighting back there. It was like, oh, I lost, oh, I'm enslaved. That being said, the way we probably went to war was much different than how they were bringing the war. You know what I mean? So I think
they had guns. They
didn't have guns until they brought the guns over.
But if we were unified, think about it like this: you had whole ships like Amistad that got rocked and had to turn back, like ships had to turn back around. Now think about it: people on these ships, I don't know if Amistad was just a lucky occasion where they had a bunch of people that spoke the same language, but on most of these ships, people didn't speak the same language.
And you know what? My African brothers and sisters, set us right. If we've got this all wrong, let us know.
Yeah, most of the people on these ships historically were from different tribes. They couldn't communicate with each other. Right. Now, maybe Amistad was an exception, and they just took a bunch of Senegambians.
It was definitely an exception.
They might have took a bunch
That's
of
why I wrote
Gambians
about
that day. And, I mean, it was an exception, but we don't know how they were able to, if it's just a bunch of brothers that was from different places that wasn't having it, or if that time they just took too many people from the same place.
It's a good thing to find out where those people were from, but
they probably was from Gambia.
Well, them Senegambians. I did some history on them. You guys check it out. The Home Team. He talks about the Senegambian region and how they fought the fiercest fight. And it's funny because a lot of people are saying that the Gambians are docile now.
Home Team's channel is
still
dope.
Water runs deep. Be careful.
Yeah. Home Team's channel was dope. He goes in on a lot
yes,
of that history.
Do.
But
okay, so
that's
this being said,
unity.
We can't, our ancestors did what they could do with what they had. I think we have a lot more now.
They did. We have to learn from their mistakes so that we learn to communicate on the one advantage that we have now, thanks to colonialism and slavery, is that we actually communicate in the same language. And the only reason why we're able to communicate with each other, really, unfortunately, is because of slavery and
So
colonialism.
that building Babylon, the great mountain Babylon is tumbling down. We're
Yeah,
all
tower.
now. We're not babbling. We're all could understand this language.
Unfortunately, it's it's not our language, and we might need to come up with a universal African
Or
tongue.
keep this one. I hear people say that all the time, like, whatever. I think we earned the right to keep this all over the world,
We have earned the right to keep it, absolutely, no doubt.
But I think that eventually, going back to what I was saying, it's going to be a matter of how we see ourselves.
We have to see ourselves in a higher light, and we have to
I'm a
beat
student of Abraham Hicks. I truly believe that we have to manifest it.
We have to eliminate those I don't know what the 4 deadly sins are or whatever. It's like envy, lust, jealousy, greed, something like that. We have to really eliminate all of those, especially from people in leadership, because once they're able to get people that are in leadership to sell out, which seems to be what happens with a lot of these, like the cycle will happen in a lot of African countries. It'll be like they'll have a bad leader, then it'll be like a military coup with somebody that is well intentioned, then he'll get into the leadership, but then he'll start doing the same thing that the last guy did, and then they'll have another coup, and then it'll be another guy that's maybe well intentioned.
So we should be wary of people that want to be leaders, because usually if they want to be a leader, it's because they want control,
power.
And those are the kind look. Vote for people that don't want to be in leadership. Get them to be in leadership, because it seems like those of us that choose to run for these elections and everything else is just power and, like Eric said, greed.
Yeah.
We really need to get to a place where the people have the power. The people make the conditions, and the people have to make some decisions on how we're going to move forward. One thing that I agree on is it's the greed and it's ego. Like, we have to be able to see other people do well and understand that if they do well, I do well. We have to see things that way. I think that's our greatest thing. What's the difference between us and China? Let's say China went through a lot, and look what they did in such little time.
They put their people to work. Look at what I think Thomas Sankara in his 4 years of power gave us our greatest blueprint, because he's like, y'all want train tracks? We're not bringing nobody in from China to build no train tracks. We're going to build train tracks. You want rice? We're not importing no rice from China. You're going to do the rice. You want clothes? We're not importing no clothes from America or from Europe. You're going to make your own clothes. And in that shorter period of that's why he had to be killed. In that short period of time, he made that country self-sufficient. And there's enough resources on that continent that continent could be self-sufficient.
Every country could be pulling something out of it,
and trading with another country.
We could be, Ghana could be the best at growing fruits. This place could be the best at growing vegetables, and this place could be the best at making furniture.
The land in Ghana, I get hungry because it's so green.
My God, that land is so green. It's beautiful.
It's like, oh man, I could grow a million farms.
Yes. So that being said, he has left us. Got a call, but I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I'm not going to stay on here too much longer. I do want to close out to say, in actuality, what this was about was me talking about how I feel like we need to start manifesting what it is that we want to see. We have to start seeing it. We have to start believing in it. We have to look at our brothers and sisters, even when they're not doing well, look for the good, and let's take our power back. Intentionality or is everything. We have to have the intention to win. We have to have the intention to succeed in our endeavors, and we have to believe that we're capable of doing things. Without all of that, we're not gonna do it, and we have to see it for each other. And going back to something else we talked about, whenever we have to deal with sellouts or anything like that, we have to do it. You can't have people around that mean you no good. So it's time to clean up house, guys. We gotta take the initiative, because this hate that we're facing from all the other races, it's sad to admit that we're a big part of that. We hate each other even more so. And I feel like I said earlier, you know how when a dog walks in a room and it fixates on a certain individual because it could tell that person is afraid of him, that person is not confident. So the dog immediately starts to bark and may even attack that person, because they're like, okay, why are you nervous? You don't feel confident. This dog is not going to let you through. This dog is going to give you a hard way. And this is how we are being dealt with by other races, because we're not a confident people. It's time to turn that table, guys. Again, I want to thank you for joining, watching, subscribing. Subscribe, guys. Subscribe. Share the channel. Let's grow this channel. I want to start some discussions, get you guys on board. I really enjoy that. Again, I want to thank you. I noticed that I had a couple of more subscribers this week. I'm really excited to say I'm at 400. This is great. Keep it black, y'all. Keep it black.